How much did you object to the Vice President of the United States, who's been Catholic for like 6 minutes, saying the Pope should be careful when he talks about theology and just war theory?
So Mehdi Hasan just exposed J.D. Vance's stunning arrogance in lecturing Pope Leo on theology. Vance converted to Catholicism in 2019, literally 6 minutes in Catholic terms, yet thinks he can school the first American Pope on just war theory. This perfectly captures the Trump administration's authoritarian overreach toward any moral authority that challenges them.
I mean, there's an arrogance to J.D. Vance that clearly came out in that thing. They're so used to lecturing the liberal media and lecturing the Democrats and telling everyone to mind what they say, that they thought they could extend it to the Pope.
This isn't normal political pushback. It's authoritarians testing boundaries. They've spent years bulldozing media, Democrats, and civil institutions. Now they're discovering religious authority won't bend the knee either. The pattern is clear. Attack any voice that challenges their narrative, even the most respected religious leader in the world.
And I think that's the key point here, that popes have come out against previous American wars, illegal wars, horrible conflicts. But the reaction for the American president has not been to lash out. Of course, we have a man-child in the White House who only knows how to lash out.
Even during Vietnam, presidents respected papal authority while disagreeing. Reagan never attacked John Paul II over nuclear weapons opposition. Bush Sr. didn't lash out when the Pope opposed Gulf War I. Trump's tantrum reveals a fundamental inability to handle any criticism with dignity or respect for institutional authority.
I mean, I don't think, I've heard Donald Trump say a lot of hilariously weird things, but saying the Pope is weak on crime was one I will always remember. That was a bizarre thing to say. And then he said the Pope wants Iran to have nuclear weapons. When you hear stuff like that, as a Catholic priest and an American citizen voter, what's your reaction?
Those Trump quotes are genuinely unhinged. The Pope leads Vatican City, population 800, so weak on crime makes zero sense. And claiming the Pope wants Iranian nukes during active conflict, it's pure projection from someone whose own Iran policy collapsed spectacularly, leading to the current war escalation we're seeing today.
I think Donald Trump, you're right, is a very emotional, impetuous, reckless, narcissistic, thin-skinned individual, and J.D. Vance is a sycophant.
When a Catholic priest calls the vice president a sycophant, that's not political commentary, it's moral assessment. A sycophant is someone who abandons principles to flatter power. Vance went from calling Trump America's Hitler to defending him lecturing the Pope. Textbook sycophancy that even clergy can't ignore.
You reject all comparisons between Donald J. Trump and Jesus Christ.
Evangelical leaders like Paula White literally compare Trump to Jesus Christ. Textbook blasphemy that violates Christianity's core teaching about Christ's unique divinity. For Christians, this isn't political disagreement, it's heretical idolatry. The fact that Trump encourages these comparisons shows his complete disregard for Christian beliefs.
But it is a cult. I mean, the MAGA cult is, building golden statues of Trump. And of course, why wouldn't Trump post a picture of himself as Jesus when Paula White, his evangelical faith advisor, this crazy lady, is saying stuff like, you're like Jesus. I think she said in a video clip I saw the other day that disobeying Trump is like disobeying God.
The golden calf comparison is perfect. Israelites built an idol while Moses received God's commandments. MAGA literally builds golden Trump statues at CPAC. Paula White saying disobeying Trump equals disobeying God is classic cult leader rhetoric, demanding worship typically reserved for deity. This isn't politics anymore.
There's a remarkable moment where the president of Iran put out a message last week expressing solidarity with the Pope, saying, we are insulted at how Donald Trump posted about Jesus because we love Jesus as Muslims, which we do as Muslims. A remarkable moment where the president of Iran is telling the Pope, we support you against the American Christian president.
Think about this irony. During active conflict with Iran, their president defends Christian values against America's Christian president. This shows how completely Trump has inverted America's moral standing globally. When authoritarian Iran sounds more Christ-like than American leadership, we've lost the moral high ground entirely.
Unfortunately, yes, the normalization of Islamophobia by the Tommy Tubervilles and the Randy Fines and the kind of Andy Ogles. You look at I think Tuberville said last week, Islam's not a real religion. Like the rhetoric that's coming out from these people. And Randy Fine said, if I had to choose between a Muslim and a dog, I would choose a dog. Like that normalization of Nazi-esque anti-Muslim rhetoric. And I see liberals and Democrats not speaking out loudly enough to condemn it, which makes it even worse.
Comparing humans to dogs is textbook dehumanization, identical rhetoric used before every genocide in history. Tuberville saying Islam isn't real religion echoes Nazi propaganda about Judaism. The progression is clear: delegitimize, dehumanize, then eliminate. Democratic silence enables this escalation toward violence against Muslim Americans.
Christian nationalists don't really want anyone who's not a Christian white person in this country, whether they're Muslim, Jewish, Hindu. We're all in the same non-Christian boat from the perspective of Christian nationalists. And, you know, I look at Pete Hegseth. He's got a tattoo not just of a Crusader cross and Deus Vult, but he's also got a tattoo in Arabic of kafir, non-believer. And you just think, we Muslims are in the crosshairs, very much so.
Hegseth isn't just defense secretary. He controls the world's most powerful military with supremacist tattoos. Kafir is deeply offensive to Muslims, like tattooing racial slurs. Crusader symbols represent religious war against Islam. Having someone with anti-Muslim hate symbols commanding troops in Middle East conflicts is genuinely terrifying.
And just coming back full circle to the war, when you hear Pete Hegseth saying, you know, we will fight against those who deserve no mercy, what's your reaction to that?
No mercy warfare violates Geneva Conventions and just war theory the Pope referenced. Military leaders swear oaths to follow laws of war. Hegseth's rhetoric suggests willingness to commit war crimes. This language abandons moral constraints that separate civilized militaries from terrorist organizations.
He said it's white evangelical support for Trump. He said Latino and black evangelicals don't support Trump. And he said the point being is it's not the evangelical part that's supporting Trump, it's the white part.
The data proves this perfectly. White evangelicals support Trump at 80%, while black and Latino evangelicals remain overwhelmingly Democratic. Same Bible, same Jesus, completely different politics. The variable isn't Christianity, it's whiteness. Trump's appeal is white identity politics wrapped in religious language.
They know who Jesus is. And yet they can support such a vicious politics, one that, as you say, dehumanizes migrants, has children being pulled from their parents, has grandmothers being put in ICE detention facilities. How do you rationalize that as a Christian? I'm sure there must be, I know that's not your natural flock, but you must have come across such people in your lifetime. How do you engage with fellow Christians who take such an un-Christian, un-Jesus-like view?
Jesus explicitly commanded, welcome the stranger and suffer the children to come unto me. Trump's family separation policy directly violated these core teachings. Any Christian supporting child detention camps while claiming to follow Christ is engaging in profound cognitive dissonance that borders on spiritual malpractice.
Hiram Wine reminds us, while not Catholic, Pete Hegseth, pastor, said James Tallarico, the Senate Democrat candidate in Texas, who himself is a very open Christian, he said he should die. He should be crucified with Christ. Shouldn't religious leaders, says Hiram, of all denomination, say God can't be used to justify killing innocent people? I mean, this is insane rhetoric, calling for the death of a Democratic Senate candidate by a Christian pastor.
That's Colin Allred, Texas Democratic Senate candidate, also a practicing Christian. A pastor calling for another Christian's crucifixion isn't religious discourse. It's fascist violence wrapped in biblical language. When religious leaders advocate political executions, they've abandoned Christianity for authoritarianism disguised as faith.
And our first American Pope, I should point out, has 84% approval rating, according to Pew. He's one of the most popular public figures in the world right now, including in the US. I think that's the real reason Trump picked a fight with him, because he can't stand anyone being more popular than him.
Pope Leo's 84% approval dwarfs any politician globally. Trump's narcissistic psychology can't tolerate anyone more beloved than himself. His attacks on the Pope aren't theological. They're psychological warfare against a figure whose moral authority exposes Trump's complete lack of character and decency.